Hello, Alan. How are you?
More or less good. Had some like personal things. My parents basically have a fire on the roof.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it fine now or?
yeah, it happened like almost 2 weeks ago. Yeah, so I disappeared.
Oh, okay. Hey,
Hello. Hi, all. How's it going?
good. How are you?
Good. Good. Thank you.
I think from people who add themselves into agenda, we're still waiting for Rob, and I think it's only Rob.
Cool. Sounds great.
Yeah, I think we can start, especially since introduction is process. Yeah, I think only Rob. Yeah, so I will post agenda to a chat. Yeah, and we'll follow agenda. Give me a second. I need to set up my screens. Yeah. So yeah, I'll start with agenda. So first item, and you can see it in the link I posted in the chat, is to participate in this working group. You need to sign specification, membership agreement, participation guidelines, and code of conduct, and you can do it as individual contributor. Even if you work for somebody, you can participate as individual. It's especially important for everyone. If anyone watching on YouTube, you can join, just add yourself to agenda and sign these agreements. Yes, second thing is introduction of attendees, and we'll follow the same order as in agenda. And hi, my name is Ivan. I work for Apollo, and I'm one of maintainers for GraphQL.js.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sahaj, and I work for the guild, and I help maintain GraphQL.js with Aman.
Hi, all. I'm Hugh. I also work for Apollo on various open source projects there.
Hi, this is Kiran. I work for American Express. I started working on GraphQL, so I came to know about this monthly meeting, and one of my peer asked me to join just to hear what's going on in the industry.
And by the way, don't forget to add yourself into agenda. It's like simple PR. You can see similar PRs from Rob and other attendees. Just add your name and a little bit of detail. And I sent link into chat. Yeah. So Rob, you next. We're introducing ourselves.
Yeah, Rob from First Dibs. Been working on the defer stream spec proposal.
Yeah, so next thing is review agenda. I think we have a pretty packed agenda. I corrected a little bit. It was some formatting issues, and actually we have only 10 items because previously it was like 15 or something. Because Markdown was rendered differently. Anyone else want to add anything to agenda? No, so we can proceed. Action items. I think basically we have all the major action items of previous meeting in this one. So it's safe to just start with action item with agenda and forward. And thanks, Sahaj, you basically add all the action items as agenda items. So thanks for like volunteering to do this process of creating agendas. So first item is for me, it's about reviewer team. Yeah, and last time I promised to create a document describing it. I had some like personal issues, but just before this call, I wrote text that we discussed, and I think it's much. I posted in the chat. I wanted to update agenda. I will update it afterwards with a link to this issue. Basically, it's just describe what we agreed on. Yeah, and add some like numbers. Yeah, one thing. I think I can just go through it. So like I describe the goal, and you can open it and read in part, or I can share. Actually, I can share a screen to go faster. So let's let me share and discuss it. Yeah. So it's have a goal described why we start this initiative, and it's have a scope as we discussed. It's experiment, and we want to check if it works or not, and it's based on actual metrics. And we have like stacked PR. By stacked meaning like nobody reviewing them. And also, as we discussed, it's like a temporary measure. That's why it's like an issue. It's not a document inside a repo. I think we have like extensive discussion last time. And by the way, if you have question about when we move through a document, if you have questions, you can stop me and we can discuss it. So also there is expectation from members of reviewing team. So they're not expected to review everything. They expected to review stuff that they specifically ping on. And it's cool because like we have this with GitHub, we can actually ping the entire group. Yeah, and anybody can like add this ping. So they can also review anything they want. It's just like they expected to provide feedback on stuff that they specifically tagged on. Yeah, and since people have day job and not everybody actually paid to do it like in work time, so we need to manage the time effectively and basically use only if PR is stacked to unblock it. That was the purpose of this process. So as I understand, everybody more or less happy with how like PR that get match. Problem was that some PR are stacked. And as we discussed, there is a major procedure. I specifically exclude spec proposals because first they like should be reviewed really thoroughly, and second thing is like PR into GraphQL.js merged before changes merged into spec. So people from main working group expected to review them. So like spec proposal, and I think as we discussed on previous meetings, main concern was not about spec proposals, but like other pairs. Also, it's usually spec proposals is not like proposed by first-time contributors or proposed by yeah. So I specifically excluded, and yeah, rule that we discussed: 2 members, 2 weeks from last non-trivial change, not from last approve, but from the time the person changed something last. It's prevent a situation when ping pong, when one reviewer say one thing, another reviewer required another thing, and like we're in situation that technically PR is approved, but yeah, nobody, like people didn't read the last version. And 1 week since review comments resolved, it's give like people time to, if you press resolve, but I'm personally disagreed. For example, it's my comment and I'm disagreed. Give me time to say like I'm disagree and it's still an issue. I think 1 week is enough to provide. I think to keep in mind, it's like also include the fact that people have like different working schedules and can review stuff only like on weekends. Not everybody get paid for doing that stuff. Yeah, all review commands address, we have CI for that. It should work. Sometimes people can add review commands as comments. They still need to be addressed. So what? And yeah, non-trivial changes. I think like maybe I will just write a small comment saying what's non-trivial. Basically, it's like spelling corrections, like some small fixes. Yeah. So I think, yeah, and everything that spec proposal is excluded. So any feedback on that before we move to?
Just a heads up, Ivan, the team, the org, is not publicly viewable by anyone outside of the GraphQL org. The link you have in the doc.
Yeah, I need to figure it out. I tried. I think I checked and it's public. And sorry, somebody calling me a second time, so I think it's something important. I will take it for me. Yeah.
Great.
I have like renovation going on in my flat, so yeah, I have random calls from people. Yeah. So any other feedback on that proposal?
So for that proposal, that looks good, what we discussed. And so can we like, so you know how we have like project boards? Can we have sort of project boards for the pull request that we can review? Like, just so we have visibility, what like have swim lanes on the project board on like.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. One thing, so I'm manage expectations from myself. And as we discussed, the whole idea is to distribute work. If you want to volunteer to do that, to manage that board,
Okay.
yeah, you can create it and post comment saying like, let's coordinate on that board.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. So yeah, by the way, also if you see like any PR stacked and like 48 hours, feel free to ping like the entire team. It's not only like PR after. It's like you can do it like yourself. So don't block it. Any other feedback before we move? So next item is yeah, I need to return the agenda. Give a second. So if I remember correctly, next item was from Yosahage, right?
Yes.
Release
So,
schedule.
yeah, release schedule. So now we have released V16 after almost a year or so. So this is about like setting up canary releases. I think we discussed last time a little bit on this topic that we need canary releases and automated version bumps on releases. So setting up change sets or something. And I think you opened up something in GraphQL.js right before it. So
Yeah.
So if I understand it correctly, each time you merge a pull request to main, will release that branch.
Yeah, I think we need to look to first. It's like depend on how painful, like if release have any consequences. Ideally, we don't need to change anything in Git history. So if we don't need to change anything in Git history, we can technically release like, because if we create commit for every
Yeah,
pair,
we can release without well you'll have a bump in your package JSON for the release in cases, right? So and we
Yeah.
have the GraphQL version file, so that will also have a bump in it on each push
Yeah.
or each release.
There is some technicalities. We have like version TS file,
Yeah.
which need to update. So basically, without going too much into technical details, we can do it after every PR. One downside to that, if we release multiple times per day,
Yeah.
which can be confusing and frustrating. People can have like depend bot or something open like bunch of PRs. So maybe
I think, yeah, if you have Dependabot, if you open like, well, at least for RenovateBot, we use it. So I know, so how that works is if you have a bump, like even if it's multiple time, it will take care of it, like updating to the latest one. So if you haven't merged that dependency update, you'll only get the latest one. So let's say we cut 4 releases in a day. If you didn't merge like in that day, the pull request will be to the 4th one, like the latest version itself. Like they take care of updating it. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think we can discuss. Right now, I'm personally for either like per PR or per day.
Because if we are talking about canary releases, not everyone is gonna update to canary. That's like,
yeah, I think we can figure out it, like when we address all the issues, we can before doing that, we can figure out what's the easiest path. And also, I don't like when you look at releases in GitHub,
Yeah.
It will have like a bunch of releases with one entry, and we use releases as changelog basically. So I think like initially we discussed release per PR, so but now I think if possible, it's like release per day make more sense. It create less noise and
I mean, if we think about it, we don't merge 10 times a day here.
Sometimes
Like it's a rare occasion. I think that's fine. If we hit into a problem in the future where we are merging like 15 times a day, then maybe yes. But if you're only gonna merge like once or twice a week, I don't see any issues merging on every pull request.
it depends on activity. So it's some period of time when some like feature is done, like some cleanup, or previously it was occasion when I merged, like you can watch GitHub history. It's like was 10 per day. It's not like third party PRs. Yeah, I think like without prolonging it, we can take it offline and discuss like nightly versus per PR and have pros and cons. But generally, yes. So idea, I'm like totally for idea of canary releases, and it's totally match with idea of unstable. So, and I wrote like list of blockers. Yeah, and yeah, one thing I'm like totally think it's like totally critical is to have releases that don't change Git history. So we need to address like version TS things and package JSON, figure out how to do releases. Either by tooling or wrote our own scripts, figure out what would work. And also doc sites. The whole canary release idea is based on that we switch to unstable main, and that means like we need to provide some docs for stable version.
Oh yeah, so with the docu source, that's simple because you can have a next version of docs and then you have like a released version. So when we release like let's say 16.1, you release the docs with the 16.1 tag, and then DocuSource manages the versioning for you. So that's not an issue.
Yeah, one thing we discussed.
Because like React Native does it, like I mean
Yeah.
they're merging way more than what we are merging. So like they're doing it at scale. So
one thing we discussed previously, I'm like for canary release in combination with unstable main. So basically we switch to 17.00 alpha 1 and start working like on D4 and other experimental features and do like some point breaking changes. And yeah, so before doing that, to simplify like merging stuff back and forth, I want to merge your doc PR basically.
okay.
Yeah, and some other blockers. They're mostly technical, so there is no like nothing, just work to be done. And I think we can schedule it for next working group to have like unstable main and canary releases and see how it works.
Okay, because yeah, I forgot to put this in, but the third point for the release would be like experimental branches. Because right now, it's only you who can like release an experimental branch.
Yeah, so idea is
So
to
need like an automated way whenever like someone pushes to that experimental branch that it gets published, so we don't have to like.
idea is to remove experimental branches. So idea is that since we will have unstable main, we can basically merge everything. Unstable branches was not the best idea. So
Are we gonna cherry pick stuff from unstable main to like stable branch or?
yeah.
Okay, so kind of like how React Native does with their RC candidates.
Yeah. Or if we plan big release, like for example, we plan to release in 17.00, we can just snapshot, like branch out main and stabilize it. meaning create release candidates, ask people to test, and everything goes, we release it. So backporting things and branching out stable releases. And actually, on this point, it's not an agenda, but maybe it's an agenda. You added another item, second one, about not automatic releases. I wanted to take this opportunity and discuss a release. I think it's called release maintainers in many projects. So somebody who responsible for backporting, not backporting, to review backported stuff and like figure out what's breaking change, what not breaking change, what can be merged, backported, what cannot. So I wanted to ask if you're interested, if you volunteer, it's like a part of responsibility I can shift basically to user hedge. Be responsible for like 15 and 16 releases once we branch out main to be unstable, because I think it's too much context to keep in my head what's currently happening on main and what's going into other branches. Are you interested in something like that?
Yeah, I think we can do that. It's because it's just managing bug boards, right? And features to 15.
And releases. So since we like have this goal, I don't want to make like everything super automatic. One, it's like the more automatization, the scariest it is to do releases on stable. I don't care if like release script is not working on alpha releases, but it's problematic if we break people. Maybe with the time we figure out automation, but now I prefer like a person being responsible for cutting releases. And it's like plus you will know like how to release things manually just in case. So yeah, and we can take a separate call, and after we switch to unstable, and I can show you how to do all the processes.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
On the topic of previous versions we support, I think I have an action item in working group about like it comes down to like release schedule and long-term support. So so let's say we released 16 today. So version 15 and version 16 are the only ones that are supported, or 14 is also something we support? Like how does something we need to come just on like a consensus on, right? How many versions you want to support?
I think it's depend on the resources. As open source project, not as a company. A company can maintain SLA, service level agreement. As open source project, it's everything based on volunteers. So if I have volunteers, technically we can support like any branches we want, especially since like GitHub, we have like tags for every version of GitHub. So we can create branch from any tag. We can support like 14 if you want. It just depends on effort. So I think we can agree that the last stable version should be supported. So meaning like 16, and everything else based if we have volunteers to do that work or not.
Okay. So in technicality, we can support any version, and so right now that would be 15 and 16. Well, so as per working group, like just in terms of the working group and like how we manage it, we only like market about like 15 or 16, right? Like we only support 15 and 16. We don't, because why would someone want to use 14 is the another question. Like if you're trying to,
Yeah, it was released like especially with previous release schedule. I think we discussed that current idea is to make releases faster.
yeah,
So I think it depends. It's a question that we will discuss when we will plan to release 17. Currently, situation that we have is like 14 was released like 3 years ago, so 2 or 3 years ago. So people still use it because like some old packages use it. So yeah, my position is the same. If person is somebody interested in backporting it and there is a person responsible for that release. So for example, if you or anyone else have capacity to every time to check if it's breaking change or not, and what's supported or what not, and so it's based on capacity. And for version, yeah, and yes, I think quite, yes, we discussed, we should support last version and we may support all previous one if we have a person who volunteered to backport it, and second thing, person who volunteered to review and be responsible for cutting that releases on that line.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and also it's per case basis. So if it's like really bad security vulnerability, if it's like really bad CV, meaning like data leak or something like remote code execution, in that case, we will just patch like everything which reasonably need to be patched. But for if person just like simple bug fix, it's like totally different story. So we switch to next topic, or anybody want to comment on that one before we switch?
For the Canary releases, so we would switch main to 17 alpha, and then after that, figure out how to automate the publishing.
Yeah, couple things. Couple things. Actually, wanted to make all non-breaking changes in 16 to have like to potentially like in future maybe we can do automatic releases on 16 just for that reason, if possible, to make changes before switching, if not possible with the required breaking change or anything else after. But it's technicalities. Basically, yeah, you're right. The end result is unstable main and canary releases and something that we can try. And like we remove idea of experimental branches because it's not working. What I saw in like big projects based on specification, people, it's very hard to maintain. It's not only our issue, it's very hard to maintain like experimental feature branches. What people usually do is like have everything on unstable version, and if they decide feature is not ready, they branch out and just remove that feature. That way, it's like you don't need to constantly rebase. It's like, and you don't need to constantly release like every release into two versions. Yeah, so lesson learned, like feature releases for peer dependencies, especially, it's not working. So yeah.
Makes sense. But the I guess what I was asking was the automatic publishing nightly or publishing on every commit on unstable, the canary releases, like that doesn't need to be tied. Like we don't need to have that working before we start doing the unstable main. Or
yeah, maybe like idea if we can do it, let's do it based on how much time we want to spend on it. So let's took like random day, Tuesday next week. If by Tuesday next week we figure out how to do like some stuff and do documentation website, we'll basically like on Wednesday next week we'll branch out 17.00. Even if something happened, we can fix it on 16. So basically in 1 week we switch to unstable. I don't, you're right, it's not make sense to prolong it. And like we already prolonged a bunch of stuff for TypeScript conversion when we prolonged for 16.00 release. So even though it's makes sense to do like some changes before, like it's not that critical. So let's 1 week and whatever we have at that moment we do.
all right, sounds good.
Yeah, so it's action item for this meeting in 1 week to switch to unstable main. Basically, it will be 16, and we can remove or deprecate stuff. And yeah. By the way, like about stream and defer idea that some stuff then it's not breaking, like support for async iterables. If we can, it's like happen in 16. If not, it's happened just at 17. But it's not like API changes and nothing. The same with like your PR for benchmark. It can land in 16. So it's like yeah, but the idea is that next week we switch. Anything else from Europe or anybody else on that topic before we switch? No, so next one is also from you, Sahaj, about enums.
Yes, so we have the enums bug.
Mhm.
That's a breaking change. So there's a lot of discussion about like if it's a breaking change or not. That's the first thing, and like how do we plan to support it?
Yeah, so it's actually a good example of why I think Canary releases is better, because now imagine we release like call it a bug fix and release bug fix release and change it, and when somebody found another problem in one of the solutions, and we cannot change it back. Like for me, it's like let's experiment on Canary releases. Initially, I thought it's blocked Apollo client, and Apollo client is big in ecosystem basically. So it was a major thing. Having Apollo client not supporting a new release. But since Apollo client is figure out, Brian, I think, figure out how to deal with it. So it's not blocking anymore. It's still important, but it's not like blocking anything, as far as I know. So let's experiment with it on Canary releases. It's safer because like we can release something, people can try it, can try for multiple months on different releases. And yeah,
Okay.
which is my suggestion for a timeline, because I'm like, I recognize the problem. I just don't see a good solution. And since Apollo client migrated and everybody else migrated, so it's not blocking change. It's like problematic. It's change category from a blocking change to problematic change. Yeah. And it's also pretty weird one since we remove a language construct. We use TypeScript enums and we switch from them. But yeah, I agree with arguments in that issue. Actually, like I think that I wanted to complete before this call. I was writing a comment describing my understanding on the situation and action steps to do. I think like one thing we need is to write like plan on that issue so it's not like stuck, and I will finish it up and post. And another thing, in that comment, I want to ask for help from Orta. Orta is member of TypeScript team, and Orta have a knowledge of GraphQL and I think even GraphQL.js. So he'll have a context, and if he available, I don't know like his availability because it's like Thanksgiving in US, but I like him to comment because I'm not TypeScript expert, and I think GraphQL.js is pretty big project, so we can ask TypeScript team, at least somebody from a TypeScript team, at least like comment and suggest what the proper solution in that situation can be. Anything else from anyone about the news? Yeah, and so switch to ESM support. You added, Sakesh, do you want to start discussing?
So we have two options right now. I think previously we have discussed in this working group that in V17, we can take a radical approach of just abandoning CJS and only support ESM. That's one way. The other way, I think this was discussed on pull request, that we can publish a GraphQL-ESM package to NPM. So we can have a GraphQL package that we publish normally, and then we have a GraphQL ESM package that's ESM only. So which way, like, how should we begin? Like, which way should we go with? Because we have pull requests ready for both ways currently, and how, well, not for the ESM only one, but just the ESM package. And like, I think the previous one that Pablo opened was closed because the issue with like having two instances, that instance off issues. So maybe we should just fix that instance off issue altogether, because I was trying this on Dino, and like on Dino we have that issue where we can't really like.
Yeah. So instance of, to explain what's the problem with instance of, it's not like, and it's like recurring issue. I think at this point, like we discussed it like 5 times. So problem is not mechanism itself. Problem that since it's peer dependency, like we cannot have like if you create a schema with one version of GraphQL.js and pass it to another version of GraphQL.js, even if we figure out instance of, it's like schemas are not compatible. Like with execute, expect like some new method in GraphQL schema. So it's thing like instance, even if we disable instance of, if we have like duplicating versions of GraphQL.js, the different version is bad. With the same version is not that bad. Everything is compatible, but we have like another problem. For example, you can return constants. We have like a break constant, and like if you use break from one package and visit from another package, it's not working together. So instance of is a symptom, it's not problem. So how to make it work with Dino? Yeah, it's another issue. Dino doesn't have this issue. In Dino, you don't have like peer dependencies. So basically, instance of was a mechanism for not. We need to figure out like if we need it in Dino or not, but we cannot remove it on NPM. Like it's solving real issue on NPM. And if you look in Git history, Lee added it on purpose with like description why he added it. And it's because like people was constantly opening the issue and saying something not work, like with really strange bugs that hard to debug.
So if you have two different versions of GraphQL, right? Let's say you have 15.1 and 15.7,
Yeah.
that something that's instance of can protect you from, right? That's one thing instance of protects you from.
Yeah.
So why not we rely on like we publish version TS, right? Why not just rely on the version, like those numbers? Isn't that easier?
Yeah, but you're not passing versions between version TS between models. Like if you have dependency creating something, I think we can take it offline, and maybe it's even worse. So I can explain you, and if you're interested, you can write a blog article or like I don't know, like some design document why we have it, and I will explain it to you, and we try to document it because we have a constantly bad thing why it's important. I think it will be more effective if I show you code samples and explain what happens. So yeah, long story short, basically we cannot, even if we remove instance of check completely, the current mechanism, we will still have like problems in NPM, in Node, basically like with duplicating NPM packages. So, and another thing, even if we didn't have this problem, still like having 2 copies of GraphQL.js in your bundle when you use bundler, and one of your dependency use ESM and another use CGS, bundler cannot be duplicated. So like if you use Webpack, you have 2 versions of GraphQL.js, which is also
like why is it an issue like having 2 versions? Like I get the part where you don't have like yes, you have
bundle size for front end. Bundle size is another issue. One issue is compatible between different versions, and another issue if you have if you make build for front end, you have duplicating like all the code duplicated twice.
Oh, okay.
In your front end bundle.
But isn't that an issue with basically any JavaScript library? I mean, it sounds a bit like we're protecting something that is, just something in the JavaScript ecosystem, and I think, and we're preventing basically something that every JavaScript library, like every user of JavaScript needs to handle. I know, are there other libraries that do the same mechanism?
Yeah, what I'm interested in, it's not a problem. It's a problem specifically with peer dependencies. So with the libraries that are peer dependency, I think React is not providing ESM like for that reason. And what I actually wanted to see what React is doing, and they still don't have ESM support. If you find any peer dependency, popular peer dependency library that doing ESM support, I will be like very interested to see how they implement it, because like, so it's like two separate problems: instance of and like having different version, and like mechanism for providing different version and duplicating. I'm like open to suggestion. I actually think like Pablo's approach with like separate release can work. It just like, I'm for testing it. I'm like want to be sure that when we do something, when we release new version of CGS and ESM packages, they both work together, or like they both work in different scenarios. We have like integration tests. So I have like bunch of review command. I think he had like a test for Webpack and for other things. So I'm okay in measuring it for 16. It's like low over. It's introduced some overhead. We need to release 2 packages instead of 1, but we can do script for that.
Releasing 2 packages isn't an issue. The issue is like now, like how do you get the users to use it properly is the other thing we need to see. Because we can publish 2 packages, but like what if someone uses the ESM package and on the other hand they're using a CGS package? Will that have any issues? Like,
yeah, NPM prevents it through peer dependency. Peer dependency basically means you can use only one. And
so if I set peer dependency of GraphQL ESM on my package, someone can't use GraphQL. Like I can't just say npm I GraphQL. You have to do my GraphQL.
No, we need to experiment it, but as far as I know, like when you add like .esm, like you create, like semantic version, you have like this feature called tag or something, basically alpha, beta, something.
Yeah.
So
add ESM.
Yeah, we can add like .esm and it's compatible. So basically, if somebody says like they support 1600, they support like peer dependency allow you to plug ESM. You don't need, we need to test it. That's why I actually want to make Pablo to write all these tests, because it should be like verifiable that it works, this mechanism is working. So
yeah, we should have that instance of issue resolved, I think, because like, I mean, personally, I wouldn't prefer to like have like install a different package. It's just like add ESM something that just like experience wise, I don't like, okay, it will solve the problem, but I like it's an overhead for the user. Like it's not just for us, but as a user too. Like if we can figure out how to just fix the instance of issue, is probably a better option.
Yeah, one thing I think what proven to be working in the case of previous discussion, when Pablo wanted to just switch to ESM, and I explained him why not, and he changed like approach. I think we can try the same. We can either do it asynchronously or synchronously, and I can explain and we can easily document to figure out, like, because instance of issue is more complicated, and I feel like
why is it like, okay, I get the part where you have duplicating versions. That
Yeah.
part is fine. That's understandable.
no, like actually, like problem is opposite. Instance of is not solution for like duplicate. It's like solution for you have a different version in your dependency tree which is incompatible. You cannot parse
I
query
mean, that
with
wouldn't work though, right? Like if you have two different versions, that just like npm will give you like peer dependency errors. So like,
no. Yeah, currently
so
yes.
as a user, you should be able, like, you should be fixing that, not like we shouldn't be handling that case. Because like,
Yeah, one issue, like problem that effectively, if we release packages that support both CGS and ESM,
yeah,
we effectively, in person, like install one package, he effectively install two packages, depending how people require it.
yeah.
And if I,
But like if you're using a bundler, like if it's a front end thing, you're using a bundler and a bundler should only use one of it, not two of it.
no, depending on how
It
you
should
import.
code split it, I think. Like bundlers have code splitting, so it should be fine. Like we can try on something.
Yeah, we can try, and there is like problems in Node. It's like,
Because on the server side, I don't think this is an issue having ESM and Node there, like having CGS and Node pack, like a ESM package on the server side.
yeah, it's a problem.
How?
Like,
Like
wait.
bundle size don't matter on the server side, so like that's not an issue. That's subtracted. So, but
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Example, like
Yeah.
For example, your package expose visitor. So we have like visitor pattern and it's exposed by one package.
Yeah.
And part of visitor API is like special break constant. You return a value called import value called break and return from your visitor. Another function and visit function compare like return with a break, and if it's equal, when it's like break. If it's not equal, it's like replace. So basically, the entire thing is working based on GraphQL.js expose export constant, and you can return in your callback. You can return that constant.
Like if it's a constant has a constant value. Like
yeah, so if you
like
import,
if one is one, like one from one package is same as the one from the other package. Like they're primitives. So like how is that an issue?
yeah, so a problem that in for literal values is one from one package is one from another package, but for objects, it's like object is like if you have the same source file and you run it twice, it will return like you will import two different objects. If you import the same file as CGS and the same file with MJS, you will return different objects. I can explain you and show code examples. I can write something simpler with code sandbox or something.
Okay. Because like, I mean, even if it's an object, right? Like if you have two objects, like, I mean, if you're doing like a deep equality check, shouldn't they match?
Yeah, we can try to make it's make development like way harder. It's like every time we need to figure out a way how to do instance of checks, because instance of not working, because classes created in different files, they like instance of is not passing. Like there is like,
or maybe it's like the time to just like take like a functional approach on the parser or something then.
yeah,
it's
not parser. It's like schema, like any. So basically, we cannot expose classes. anymore. Yeah, let's
Okay. Okay. I just, yeah, like you can write an issue or like send a code sandbox to me and I can
yeah,
play with it.
let's make an action item until next working group. We will have a discussion in some form and document it. It's importantly to document because I feel like I explain it like every time, and maybe somebody figure out a way how to resolve it, which will be ideal. Yeah. So. I think we discussed action item. Next one is about documentation website.
Yes. So I think it's just waiting for you to merge it.
Yeah, I have like we discussed it asynchronously. I have like some stuff that I tried locally. Yeah, like bubble parser, for example, you can remove it. You don't need it. And some other like I figure out a way how to change output directory. Basically, I have like half done PR, and yeah, let's do the same thing we discuss with Rob. So like I'm like thinking about new approach, which means like instead of having, especially for things that don't change spec and it's not public API, let's merge it on Monday. Like what we have on Monday, let's merge it on Monday. So basically, in its current form, it's like satisfies me. It just like thinks we can make it simpler and not having like PRs afterwards. So
Okay.
my proposal is to merge it on Monday. If I can finish my changes before Monday, okay. If not, I will create subsequent PRs to fix them.
Okay.
So,
because the other thing is like setting up deployments on Netlify and having the C name. Is that something Brian will do it, or how do we proceed to those?
yeah, I think we can write email and with, I think we can ask even better if we do it through Ricky. I think Ricky have like the whole credentials and everything for doing. So maybe it's better to just like
ping Ricky and
yeah, to schedule like a call with Rick and do it in 1 hour and not having like back and forth. I'm not a Netlify expert and I didn't do that, so like I trust if Ricky have enough time to do it, we can ask him to help.
Okay, because the other part I have on that agenda item is, so now once we have the docs site in, we need a way to get tutorials in and like more documentation in. So we need like a minimum bar that someone can just merge those in, like, because we don't want to wait for like 3 months to get to like a tutorial in.
Yeah.
That seems unreasonable.
So yeah, I think we can start from, do you mean like changes or completely new tutorial?
I mean, the existing tutorials are very outdated. Like they don't even like we are the GraphQL, like it's GraphQL.js. It's the main library that people use. Like it should have the up-to-date standards on doing things. Because Express GraphQL doesn't even support v16 yet. So like I don't.
Yeah, about Express GraphQL, it's I plan to do release on that.
I think we can get tutorials from like how to make like how GraphQL.js can be used, not just server environments, not client side, like things like CodeGen, like, or like how you can use the parser, like those kind of tutorials, like how you can use GraphQL.js or like.
Yeah, like CodeGen, do you mean Do you mean like use directly for code gen?
Like, well, so GraphQL.js can be used in different scenarios, right? Not just like making servers or like that, like just client side things. You can do like cool things with it. Like people can have like stitching examples or federation examples, which is something like you can do with GraphQL.js plainly. I mean, modifying the functions, right? So like having sort of advanced guides in tutorials, I think.
So to clarify, do you mean like tutorials that use purely GraphQL.js and express GraphQL and that's all?
No, like
Or
other things too, like other things that are available in the ecosystem, like to educate people how they can be using GraphQL, right?
yeah, so I think we duplicating, in that case, we're duplicating what we have. We have like code.
How to GraphQL?
Yeah, GraphQL.org have a code section.
Well, the issue with GraphQL.org is we don't get anything merged there.
Yeah, so I
It
think
takes like the simplest thing takes 2 to 3 months to get merged. Like someone opens to get like a package in for the code page, it takes forever to merge. So
No, but that's not the case anymore. I think now if there's something waiting, I can merge it there.
oh, okay, you can merge it now. Okay.
yeah, so it's so problem with idea that everything is properly scoped. So GraphQL.js site is documenting GraphQL.js. One thing, imagine if we took ownership of web tutorials, we need to constantly update it. And like it's, and at the same time, like check it's working. I think
we can write tests for that tutorials work. Like if
yeah, I think
because it kind of gives us more than in like kind of like integration test at this point, right? Like we are not just making like a dummy schema to test something. We have like a working app that hopefully will work next time when we update.
I feel like code is actually first thing code. It's like on the main side, so it have bigger visibility. It's not subdomain. It's like a main side.
Yeah.
When it's like duplicating stuff. So if you have like, I don't know, GraphQL Helix, for example,
yeah,
you create tutorial and you want people can post on GraphQL.org for different reasons, like visibility, search engine optimization, like anything.
I mean,
you post there in a code, and you also post to GraphQL.js. I think better is to have one place.
I think I'm suggesting for GraphQL.js to have a tutorial, because what the code page is on like GraphQL.org is just like, this is a package available in JS ecosystem. That doesn't have much to it.
Are we talking? So we're talking. There's the just to get I get the context. So today there's like a GraphQL.js tutorial, like very basic on how to write like a simple server with GraphQL.js. On like a subdomain that is unreachable on GraphQL.org. What now you're building, Sahaj, if I understand correctly, is like a documentation website for GraphQL.js, right?
Yes.
So I think that it makes sense to, in my opinion, it makes sense to move the tutorial into GraphQL.js because what you see, what you just linked, the GraphQL.org/code, this is just a list of tools. It's not around tutorials, and each tool in their own websites contain like the docs and a simple tutorial of getting started. I think what exists on the subdomain on GraphQL.org for GraphQL.js tutorial, it's like a simple tutorial. I think, in my opinion, we should put it on the GraphQL.js website for visibility. And this tutorial should stay simple. I mean, I think it's a good tutorial overall. I remember I've done it a couple of years ago. It's a good tutorial, a simple tutorial. It gets you get started easily, and you understand the core basics, which I think is important. And then at the end of the tutorial, we could tell people, oh, so this is like plain GraphQL.js. There's all kinds of like higher level tools and frameworks, and then we could link them into the GraphQL.org/code to find all the different alternatives that are ordered there. But I think it's good for beginners or learners to actually look at the core library and how to build something basic with it, and then start with whatever framework you want to choose. What do you think? It makes sense? It's I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with it, I think.
Yeah, so to clarify, as I understand, like what we discussed, like was, I think it's Sahej asking about creating tutorials for GraphQL.js plus something, like for example, GraphQL.js plus Helix, GraphQL.js plus GraphQL.
I don't. It's a good. I don't know if it's. We need to maintain it inside the GraphQL.js website. I think it will be like. I think what you're saying is a good point. Like, if we're going to start maintaining like tutorials for all the different JavaScript frameworks and all their versions, I think it's going to be hard. I think it's better to have a good starting point, like very basic thing. Just basically the same tutorial that exists on GraphQL.org, but nobody has access to, nobody can reach to, and put it on GraphQL.js because it makes sense. And then just from the end of this tutorial, just to like link back to GraphQL.org/code, and then people could just choose whatever library they want and use the tutorial on their libraries. Like Helix will have a tutorial, Apollo Server has a tutorial, like
yeah. One thing we can do, and this suggestion, maybe you can do it on GraphQL.org. In code section is to have like a tags. So like some of the tools, like GraphQL Shield, is not starting point. It's like things that you use afterwards. So maybe
so in GraphQL.org/code, it's divided. So for each language, first of all, it's divided by languages, and then for each language you have client, server, and tools.
Okay.
So you have, so basically what we can do at the end of the GraphQL.js tutorial is to link directly to GraphQL.org/JavaScript/server.
Okay.
Yeah, so then it will be exactly to
okay. I didn't saw it. Yeah, and all the servers provide you easy to start example tutorials. It's like, yeah, so that thing. I didn't saw like you actually have some.
Yeah, exactly, the link that you sent. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we rewrote it recently to make it easier for people to start and make this resource a bit better than how it was, than just a random list. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, to be honest, if I like did GraphQL server right now, I would use something like typed GraphQL. Yeah, so like my personal preference is like that, but since it's like I think like what GraphQL.js becoming is more like a core library when
No, I agree with you. Like type GraphQL or Nexus or GiraffeQL, there's many, and there's plus and minuses. I think, but again, like I think the whole point of what we're trying to do is like to separate. I agree with you. Like to basically separate how you create the schema and how you execute it. But I think it's still, I think the tutorial that is on the GraphQL.org on the unspecified URL is a good tutorial for the basics. I think it's not necessarily like in order for people to go ahead and build their servers with plain GraphQL.js, even though I still think it's a interesting and good experience, but it's just a good knowledge of the core library. And then that's why I'm saying in the end of this tutorial, the tutorial will link to, we actually write some sentence like, you know, you don't have to use like the core library. There's so many tools out there, and here is a link to all the different tools. I think that will be the best solution.
To clarify, I sent the link in the chat. Is the same
Yeah,
link?
exactly.
Okay, so I think Sahaj, you copied it, right, in the new documentation size.
Yes, it is copied to the new one.
Yeah,
You just
so
need to update this, I think.
yeah. So let's, as agreed, let's keep like first version drop-in replacements, so the same content, and when we can like just to make this like PR simpler, so no text changes. Yeah, like just move it, and later have this update.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Yeah, and another thing, I think it's a good policy is that GraphQL.js makes sense to document itself, with the exception of Express GraphQL, because it's like first it's historically happened, second it's like easier to give example with servers, and third it's like it doesn't require us to build like separate website for Express GraphQL.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, I mean, or yeah, I guess just an example is good. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's more like
something easy. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I could argue that like putting a helix there is better in terms of like explaining that the separation between that you could basically use GraphQL.js with whatever HTTP server you're using, right? Because Express GraphQL is kind of like tied to Express, and we don't want people to think. One thing that I see, which is a shame, is like people starting GraphQL and they think because of Express GraphQL, they can only use it with Express. So maybe that example from the beginners can actually create the wrong, you know, create the wrong assumption, and it's good for us to actually show that it kind of like separate it, right? Like show, okay, these are used GraphQL, and then if you want to send it over to HTTP, you know, use whatever you want, and you know, or we could still use GraphQL, especially GraphQL, and then just add a sentence around it. I don't know. We'll see with the tutorial, but yeah.
Sentence. If anybody volunteers, you can build like without any library. It's a fun like article and a fun like advanced tutorial, advanced like example how to you can use like Node.js API and HTTP package from it and build the server. Like even Express GraphQL, it's like less than 1,000 lines of code with everything graphical. So
yeah, exactly. Just to not create the wrong impression. I think, yeah. So, but yeah, I guess we can just first phase just to take whatever exists today, update it, and release it under GraphQL.js, and then send small PRs to improve everything. And,
yeah. Okay, it works. So it was the last topic. I think we reached consensus. Anything else anyone wants to discuss before next working group, stuff that we cannot decide asynchronously?
Yeah, I wanted to ask for asynchronous plugins for like parse and so having asynchronous parse and validate, but something I can ask. We can discuss next time, I think.
Okay, yeah, but you can ping me like Discord and we can discuss. Or if it's like worth to include other people, we can open an issue and discuss.
Okay. Because this is more like asking if we can make parse and validate asynchronous function, because today they are synchronous only.
Yeah, you can wrap it and promise and it will be asynchronous. I'm not sure why, like we can discuss it.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else from anyone? Yeah, so it was really packed agenda, I think. Yeah, hour and 20 minutes. And we had I think it was very productive, and we have like agreed on action items and stuff that we need to do like next week and before next working group. So let's focus on delivering it, and next working group we discuss new topics and also action items of this one. So it was great. It was great working group call, and see you in 1 month. Bye.
Bye everyone. Thanks, Ivan. Bye.
Bye.